The 9 traits of the narcissist. Hi, welcome to today's little lesson, and thank you so much for joining me. If you are a regular viewer, you know that the previous 2 little lessons we've been talking about narcissism. And if you missed those 2 videos, I would encourage you to go back because we have laid a little bit of a foundation that I think if you're interested in this video and this topic, they could be a help to you. And we've actually done 2 other videos in the past on the Christian response to a narcissist, and that generated a lot of interest, and that's actually why I'm doing these at least three more videos on this topic that interests so many people. And so I want to go a little more specific today into the 9 characteristics of the narcissist. Remember, narcissist is just a word. It's based on a Greek mythological character named Narcissus who fell in love with his own reflection, turned into a flower. You can plant it in your garden today, the narcissist. Okay? And, just a way of kind of describing a certain degree of selfishness, because we're all selfish to some degree. But the narcissist, a little out of the ordinary, although it seems like people are thinking anyways that there's more narcissists than ever before, and it's a growing phenomena. Who knows? There are more people becoming aware of the term narcissism, and I think that the term is being thrown around a little bit too loosely. So it is actually a diagnosable personality disorder. And in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, it's kind of like the Bible of Psychologists, edition number 5, because, there are at least 5 editions, and psychological science and evaluation has evolved over the years. They list 9 criteria, and they say in order to clinically diagnose somebody as having narcissistic personality disorder, they got to have 5 of these 9 traits. So again, this was all arbitrary, just a way of classifying people. And it helps, I guess, because the terrible thing about narcissism is the wake of victims that are left in the narcissist's wake. And the covert narcissist, those who are very, their narcissism is very clandestine. It's very subtle. They do a good job at hiding it. There is the grandiose narcissist that, right from the start, you can just pick up that their ego is a mile wide, and you know to stay away from them. But the vulnerable narcissist, or the covert narcissist, and you can find YouTube videos on all these designations, they can sneak into your life and catch you off guard, and they're hiding their narcissism from most people, but it surfaces with those who get close to them. And when you don't please the narcissist, that's when you begin to see their very dark side. So I'm just telling people, be cautious in using that terminology, labeling people narcissists, because we all are looking for confirmation for our biases. And when somebody's offended us, well, it's easy to, come up with a label for somebody that makes us feel better about ourselves and gives us justification to stay offended at the person who's offended us. So a true narcissist, by definition, has 5 of these 9 characteristics. So I'm going to look at them in this little lesson and talk about them in a little more detail. Okay, so number 1, a grandiose sense of self-importance. Now again, the covert narcissist will hide that, but once you get to know the person, it begins to become very clear that they think they're a little bit better or a lot better than everybody else. They're special, and what they're doing is much more important than what anybody else is doing, because they're a narcissist. They're self-absorbed. So they believe that they deserve special treatment, and they have a right to be in control. That's why they love to be in control, because only they know what they're doing. Only they are doing it right. And again, the covert narcissist, the vulnerable narcissist, hides this. But you'll see it sooner or later. and what they say and what they do. And the person whom I pretty much was, introduced me to the whole narcissistic personality thing, I certainly didn't see it at first, but as time went on and had more and more conversations with this particular individual, it became very clear that, they thought they were superior to everybody else on our staff. And this is a person who was formerly on our staff. Number two, they have a preoccupation with fantasies of unlimited success, power, brilliance, beauty, or ideal love. Now, of course, you don't know what's going on in people's minds, so you can't, this is a hard one to pick out in a narcissist because it's just purely in their mind. They're fantasizing about, unlimited success, power, brilliance, beauty, or ideal love. But, you see the telltale signs of it if they display it. Remember, again, to be diagnosed by a psychologist as having narcissistic personality, you have to display 5 of these, not just 5. You get half of them and they could say, yeah, you got NPD. Then number 3, and this is very similar. They're all similar because they're just, extreme selfishness. Number 3, they have a belief that he or she is special and unique, and can only be understood by or should associate with other special or high status people or institutions. So the narcissist doesn't, for the most part, hang out with the lowly unless it makes them look good. Okay, and that's a whole another thing. But they're attracted to other people who they reached a certain status or level in their estimation, and that's who they're going to be gravitating towards. They can't hang out with the lowly. Here's one that is often easier to spot. Number 4, requires excessive admiration. Requires excessive admiration. So we all love admiration. We all love to be patted on the back. But the narcissist is just above average on that. And looking for affirmation and adoration and gathers people around them that supply that admiration. And psychologists refer to that as narcissistic supply. These people then inadvertently become what, and this is not my term, what psychologists refer to as a group of flying monkeys. Now, if you ever saw The Wizard of Oz, either the old original film or the musical, whatever, you know that the Wicked Witch of the West, I think it was the Wicked Witch of the West, had these flying monkeys. When I saw that film as a kid, those flying monkeys were terrifying. They were monkeys that had these wings. There were hordes of them, and they did the evil bidding of the Wicked Witch. And so that's why psychologists have grabbed that image and applied it to the narcissist. The narcissist gathers these admirers around them. And then these people become loyal to them because they genuinely do admire them because they're, again, it's a symbiotic relationship. They're supplying admiration to the narcissist, and then he keeps them in his circle and does it all whatever he can to motivate them to stay in his circle, and they become so loyal to them that his enemies become their enemies. There's blind loyalty, and then they, are used to do the Wicked Witch's evil bidding. And if you are not liked by a narcissist, it won't be long before you're attacked by the flying monkeys. Okay, I'm laughing now, but it's not funny when it happens. It is terrifying. Just like when I watched The Wizard of Oz as a little kid, how terrifying those flying monkeys were to a tender little child. Being attacked by a narcissist flying monkeys. And some of those flying monkeys might even be people that you thought were your friends, but you discover that their loyalty is primarily to the narcissist, and he or she can do no wrong. And so, at one time I was getting letters from flying monkeys, obviously approved by the chief, the narcissist, who they were sending them on that narcissist's behalf, because they cited things that they had no knowledge of except for hearing them from the narcissist, but in their loyalty to the narcissist, becoming his flying monkeys. All right, so the psychologists will always tell you, don't give the narcissist any supply. That is that need for excessive admiration, and stay away from them because they're just out to exploit you, and that's one of the other characteristics here. Number 5 has a sense of entitlement. So because I am superior, I deserve the best. Rules are for other people. I remember this was the case with the staff member that I was so unfortunate to have associated with, because rules were essentially meaningless. Everybody else had to abide by our ministry rules, but not him. Not him. Sense of entitlement. Now, number 6 is interpersonally exploitative. Takes advantage of others. So in the covert narcissist, it's not evident, like I said, at first, but it becomes very evident that they are there to use you. And again, there's lots of people out there who are predatory, and they're not narcissists. Now, that being a predator is selfish, don't get me wrong, but that's the only characteristic that they might have amongst these 9. And so you be careful in labeling predatory people as a narcissist. They're just predators. And they're looking for the weak and the vulnerable to take advantage of in order to make things better for them. And I've certainly had my share of dealings with predators who, associate with you because they're trying to get something out of you. They have an ultimate goal to advance their own agenda, and you fit in to, you're a stepping stone, and so they'll use you, and they'll pretend to be friends and so forth, and be deceptive and be two-faced because they're not genuine, because they're really not a true friend. They really don't care about you. They just care about themselves, and they're a predator. Predators, again, are always looking for the weak and the vulnerable. When you see those documentaries of the wolves tracking the caribou, who do the wolves go after? They don't go after the big, bull moose caribou. They go after the ones that are sickly, the weak, the immature ones, the little caribou that are just born, who can't keep up with the herd as they're running from the wolf pack, and so the wolves go after them. Well, that's exactly who predators go after, and that's, of course, who narcissists go after. They are predatory. They're exploitative in their relationships. And once they're done with you, they're just on to the next, looking for the next person that they can exploit to advance their agenda. I would say that one of the characteristics of these narcissists under this heading of being interpersonally exploitative is that they are gaslighters. As your relationship with them begins to break down and you have conflict with a narcissist, they take no responsibility. You're to blame. And they're going to try to convince you that your perceptions are wrong, and that your heart is wrong, and that your thinking is wrong. And it's very confusing to the person who is empathetic and who is a godly character, because godly people do examine themselves. They don't want to be self-deceived. They're praying that the Lord would help them to see themselves as they really are. And so when the gaslighter comes along, on behalf of the devil, to tell you all that's wrong with you and to condemn you and to put all the blame on you, well, it's very confusing. And you have all this second guessing. And boy, I certainly experienced that. Dealing with the narcissist. One good thing about dealing with a narcissist is you get smarter, and the next you can more easily identify it, and you're a little more cautious. Okay, number 7, and there's 9 altogether. Lacks empathy. They don't care if they ruin your life. It doesn't make any difference to them whatsoever. And you can try to work things out and to reconcile with them, but narcissists are famous for the silent treatment. And that's really a tacit admission that you're right and they're wrong, because they have no defense whatsoever. So they just disappear. And and you can reach out to them. You get no response whatsoever. They don't care. I mentioned a book that Dr. Les Carter, one of the great YouTube channels by a psychologist who's ministering, or he's not, I don't think, doing it in Jesus' name, but trying to help people, victims of narcissists. And he wrote a book called Pleasing You is Killing Me. And that's a great, great title to explain what happens when you're a victim of a narcissist. When you no longer give them what they want, they dump you just like that. And you're persona non grata. You don't exist anymore. You're like dead to them. And okay, number 8, and I'm winding this down. Now, number 8, envies others. Well, that is one of the characteristics of a selfishness, just general. So just because a person is jealous or envious doesn't make them a narcissist. It just makes them jealous or envious. But it's one of the 9 characteristics that you got to fit all of them, or 5 out of 9, to be clinically diagnosed as being a narcissist. And so envies others or believes others are envious of him or her. So always suspect of other people's motives because they're so familiar with envy. So, I don't like you because you're so blessed and I'm jealous of you. Or, your family serves the Lord and all of your children turned out good, but all my children turned out rotten, and I hate you for that. I'm envious that your kids love the Lord and my kids don't. So I'm going to find more fault with you. And that builds up in the narcissist or any envious or jealous person. And there is 100 million examples, obvious, of what can motivate someone to be envious or jealous. And then finally, last but not least, number 9 shows arrogant, haughty behaviors and attitudes. And that can be manifested in a million ways, of course, as well. And that's so general. That's why it's so tempting to label people who show arrogant, haughty behaviors or attitudes as narcissists. But remember, it's only one of the 9 characteristics, okay? And narcissists are not interested in your genuine constructive criticism or your feedback. They only want your admiration. That's the only thing that they'll accept from you. Narcissists deal with disappointment very poorly. It's usually in rage, and so that's one of the 9 characteristics, that's one manifestation of the selfishness and the arrogance and the haughtiness and so forth, is that there's rage. And the weird thing about narcissists is they can go from rage back to normal like in seconds, and at least if you're a victim, it leaves your head spinning because you just think, what just happened? This person just, to beat all records, just raged. Nostrils flaring, red face, clenched teeth, and so forth, raged at me. And now, a few minutes later, they're acting like nothing happened. Everything's normal. Did I just experience that? It seems like unworldly. I remember one time, I'll close on this, that when I was introduced to a person who finally, came to the realization this is a narcissist. I remember one time this person is in the presence of others, just heaping praise and compliments on me. So anyone who observed it in that group say, "Oh, he's so nice. He's so nice," and was kind and considerate and telling me nice things about myself, complimenting me for sacrifices that I was making. And then 20 minutes later, alone with that person, the person is nostrils flaring, red-faced, not screaming, but bizarre, absolutely bizarre, and saying things, criticizing me with things I couldn't even understand. It just didn't even make any sense. I could just tell this person's thinking is just so twisted. They're living in another world. But again, the other people who saw that person's behavior just 20 minutes earlier, they would have never in a million years guessed that that's how I was being treated by this same person. As I said, at first, I referred to him as Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde because I saw the split personality. Okay. All right, it's no fun dealing with a narcissist. And is there hope for narcissists? Well, you don't think you have to cure them. You're never going to cure a narcissist, only if they humble themselves and face up to the truth. about themselves, will they ever be helped? Because then God's grace can go to work, because God gives grace to the humble, but he resists the proud. Well, don't feel wrong in following God's example. You run into a narcissist who's not willing to humble themselves, and God's resisting that narcissist. Well, you can at least avoid that narcissist and, in that way, resist the narcissist. I would say that's great advice. Don't torture yourself any longer. Wake up to the gaslighting of the narcissist and ask some other people that are truly proven themselves as your friend through years of knowing that you're imperfect but still being your friend. Ask them their opinion. Okay? I think on our next lesson I'm going to talk just briefly about confirmation bias, because that's such an interesting phenomena that we're all a part of, and that is an antithetical to honesty and to what Scripture teaches us, but nevertheless, so common. And we're all, I'm sure, guilty to some degree or another. Okay, so confirmation bias, that'll make a good little lesson. And hope you'll join me then, okay? If you've never visited heavensfamily.org, why don't you check us out? We're helping people out all over the world, and with a lot of good things. One of those things you could read about is how we've been training very poor subsistence farmers in Africa how to improve their agricultural methods through a program called Farming God's Way that's revolutionizing lives in 6 different East African nations. And it's being done in the name of Jesus and in conjunction with the gospel and discipleship. Okay, heavensfamily.org. Until next time, may the Lord keep blessing you.